welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. Like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I am so excited today. Tyler Posey is here. He's got a brand new album on the way called Unravel and a new single called Gravity. How's it going? Hello.
Hey, buddy. Great. Yeah. Thanks for the intro. Oh, God. I have a dog with a squeaky toy. He just started squeaking it. I got like
It'd be
3
part
dogs.
of the interview. Yeah. Well, it's a character in its own. Yeah.
Yeah. It adds a little flavor. Yeah, dude. Everything's great. Super excited to release this music. It's the first time in a few years that I've released independently. I'm not on a label right now. And so that's very exciting. And sort of like an experiment, I had a great run at John Feldman's label Big Noise, and then decided for this next release that I kind of wanted to see what it was like on my own. I've got the fan base. I just wanted to kind of see. I've never done that with a big release before, and I've garnered some more fans over the years. So it was just sort of an experiment, and kind of gives me the freedom to sort of do whatever I want. I had a lot of freedom at that label, but this time there's really nobody sort of giving their input. And the album is 16 tracks, and each song is pretty much a different genre in itself. So it's really exciting that I get to sort of, showcase all of my favorite bands and genres mixed on one album of mine. So it's really cool.
Yeah. And to do it on your own, I mean, you're a little bit into this. Does it feel different on the business side of things? Like, I'm guessing there's a little bit more of a hands-on, a little bit more legwork that you got to take care of too.
Yeah, and I felt that was something that I wanted to experience. It kind of reminds me of back in the day when I was first starting bands when I was 12 years old. I would create my own flyers. I would like either draw them or go to Kinko's and mass print a bunch of flyers, and then I would go stick them to car windows, pass them out at concerts. So it does feel like there's more groundwork that I am doing on my own, which is nostalgic, but also I feel like it's good for me to kick my ass. I love working really hard, and I feel like it's easy to sort of get complacent and a little, I don't know if lazy is the right word, but when somebody's doing it for you, you sort of lose that drive to make it happen yourself. And the first few releases, I found that the first few releases of this album, the first 2 singles, I still have stuff to learn and more work to put into it. But it also it creates this sort of new passion of excitement, and I'm really excited to film videos, and it creates this weird dichotomy of realizing, oh shit, there is more work to put into it, but it's also more exciting because it really is just me. And so it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm still sort of trying to figure out my legs while doing this, but it's interesting. I'm glad I'm doing it. I felt like it was good for me to, I don't know, just learn how to keep working harder and keep working toward a goal of mine.
It's smart too. And it's probably a little bit easier, although you made me a little nostalgic for hanging out at Kinko's. Just with all of that, like, does Kinko's did Kinko's go the way of like Circuit City?
Oh yeah. I think it failed way before Circuit City. I haven't heard of a Kinko's since I think 2000 maybe. I'm not
right.
Sure.
I haven't thought about that in a long time either.
Yeah.
Where do we get our wires and cords and copies at these days?
I know.
So you're still working, like Feldman, though, he was still a part of the album, is that right? Like there was still some
Yes.
production? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of. So I've been recording with Feldy for the past close to 4 years, I think. Little over 3 years, close to 4 years or more. I don't know. I don't know the time frame. COVID really messed everything up.
Sure.
That's like this weird black hole that adds 3 years, and I can't remember how long I've been working before. But so Feldy and I, once I left the label, we didn't release all of the songs. I think I released 2 EPs with him, and I think there were it was definitely less than 20 songs, but we recorded, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, maybe more. So we've got all this unreleased music, and we're still really close. He's still a really great friend of mine. And I asked if what we're going to do with all these songs that are just sitting there, and they're really great songs. And I kind of felt bad for them. I want them to be showcased. And and he was like, we can release them if you want. And I was like, that would be great. So we made an agreement, and he said that would love to have these songs out. And so the last song that I just released, Gravity, that's a Feldman song. So there's 5 Feldman songs on this LP, and then 11 songs that I did outside of him with my other friend, producer Matt Malpass. So it's kind of like a mishmash of, you know, Feldman and Matt as producers. But these songs that I did with Feldman, some of them are like a little over 3 years old. So you can say that this album has been in the works for the past like 3 to 4 years, which is really cool to say. You know, it's, you know, when you're sitting on something for so long, and then you get to kind of see how I've changed as an artist, and it still kind of fits in line with the stuff that I'm writing now. And so it's just I don't know, I always found that really cool when an artist that I idolize, they have been working on something for years. I'm like, oh wow, it better be good, you know. It's there's a little bit of added pressure to it, but yeah, it's really exciting. I'm glad I'm finally releasing this music.
Yeah. So you might not think of you, and maybe you do, but you might not think of your songs in such a linear way, but like what did you want this one to say, I guess, especially following up Drugs? And I'll even take the full step back and say, when you just look at the titles, even, you know, you got Drugs and then you have Unravel. I mean, it feels like there's sort of a chapter 1, chapter 2 thing that's possible here. Is that the case?
No, there's definitely a possibility for that. I think sort of anything I write and put out, you know, as an artist, you do try to have it be a cool story surrounding it. And Drugs was special because I had just gotten sober off of drugs during that time, you know. And so that was that sort of landmark for me in my life and in my career, and I felt like it needed to be put down in paper and memorialized in a little EP. And so that's where that came from. Unravel. So this album's really interesting because I went into the studio with no plan of action. I had a bunch of songs that I demoed here at my house, songs from Feldy, and then I wrote a bunch of songs with Matt Malpass. And I didn't really have a game plan going into it. I didn't want it to be a certain genre. I just started writing. And with the freedom of being an independent artist now, not on a label, I felt like I could have that freedom. And also being an actor, there's an added freedom of, you know, I don't have all my eggs in the basket of music, which means I feel like there's a little bit of freedom with me being able to change sort of genres from song to song. I feel like a lot of artists don't get to have that privilege because their fans know them so well on a certain genre that if they divert it a little bit, it would be jarring and shocking. And so this whole album is just, I think the basis for it, the foundation is just experimental. I put a lot of thought into each song, but I didn't put a lot of thought into the conceptualization of the album. It just kind of, it was all instinct. It just came out of me. It happened. It unraveled out of me, basically. So that's I wrote this one song called Unravel. It's the last track of the album, and I feel like it has this really beautiful sorry. It's got this really beautiful build, and then this crazy crescendo to this huge climax of a song, and it's really epic, and I feel like it's a really great way to wrap out the album. And the song itself is such a heavy sort of epic adventure of a song, very cinematic, that I wanted to call the album after it, and it just felt like Unravel was the right title. But this album is sort of, each song it doesn't really reflect a time in my life. Like Drugs was all about becoming sober. This one is just sort of all over the place. But I do think that the songs are cohesive with each other. I put them in an order that I feel like is best listened to from top to end. Just because it sort of has this sort of digression of really heavy music to this sort of chiller vibe, epic music, sonically. And so, yeah, there wasn't really a game plan when I went into this album. It just sort of it unraveled out of me. It just happened, and I felt like that was in itself really special. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does what you said. It being a part two does work for the stuff that I've put out in the past. So it is cool to think of it that way.
Yeah. So when you're talking about, every song being sort of a different genre or different genres being represented, like I'd be curious, like how many different genres are we talking about? But also, how does that change for you in the way you approach them writing? Like is it even to the extreme you're like, oh, I would really love to write this type of song now? What does that mean for how you begin that song?
Sure. Yeah. No, of course. Like I said, it just kind of, I didn't go into the songwriting process with a plan. It wasn't like before I wrote this song, I wanted to sound like this. So backtracking there. So all of I think the sounds sort of revolve in the alternative space. There's no jazz, there's no blues on the album.
It
But
would have been entertaining though. I would like to hear the Posey jazz EP.
I would love that too. I've written some stuff before, so it's not unlikely that I'll have, some jazz in what my next album or whatever. I do want to experiment and just kind of put everything I love. Again, I feel like I have that luxury because it's not, music isn't my end all. But I go from I'll do it in bands. So we have Comeback Kid and anything really hardcore inspiration in there. We've got Alkaline Trio, we've got Blink 182, we've got Sugar Ray, we've got 311, we've got some sort of reggae style, which I guess fits under the 311 umbrella. A little bit of Crazy Town or Shifty. There's some inspiration in there. So it sort of fits under this just like kind of alternative umbrella. But there's a lot of styles that I hit and a lot of bands that inspired me. And when I went to write, it was just, here's what I wanted to write at this time. I have this really beautiful sort of orchestra acoustic song that I did go into it thinking, here's what I want to write. We were rented an Airbnb in Big Bear, and we were on the lake. And there was one day I was like, I need an acoustic song on this album. Like that just feels like the only thing that's sort of missing. And so that's the only song I went into it thinking like, here's what I want to write. Here's the next sonically sound that I want to write. And it ended up being this acoustic song. It's really beautiful. It's the second to last song on the album. And it just throws you for another loop when you're listening to this album. That's just this sort of mishmash of just a bunch of different styles and sounds and it's really, really, really cool, special, and exciting.
Yeah, I actually love hearing that even more. That there's sort of it's more artist inspired in that way. Yeah, you were talking about your favorite artists and when they've worked on something for a long time and what that means to you. I find that it's even more meaningful to me that when I talk to an artist and they're like, oh yeah, this song is inspired by this. I was talking with Alex from All Time Low yesterday. He was like, I was listening to nothing but Sgt. Pepper and Elton John, and the first two songs, you can absolutely tell that, and it made me love those songs like even more.
How cool.
So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like if you know the artist's inspiration and hear their take on it, it is this sort of, because that's what art is. Art is always going to be inspired from somebody that inspired you as an artist, and I find that so cool. And then with your added flavor in it, it really makes it it's special. Yeah.
So we got Gravity as the latest single, and hitting on that one, which I don't know what you can say about it. Space, and I'm talking about the universe and space, seems like that's such a fun tool to use in writing, because that's the loneliest place to escape to.
Exactly.
If you need it to be. What was the context for you in this one?
Yeah, so this was a song that I demoed years before I took it to Feldman. My friend and I even tried to record it at one point, and it just never worked. But I always had that initial first verse, blasting off to space. No one can stop me. I'm taking off from here alone. So yeah, it is. And the way you put it is really, really, really nice. Like it is the loneliest place. And that's where this character in this song, me, wants to go at this point in his life. I think at this point I was sort of, I don't know, there's a lot of confusion here on this planet, and I really try to, whenever I do anything in my life, I really try to lead with a sort of empathetic spiritual foot. I always am just looking for the best in myself and people in the world, and always just want to advance and sort of evolve as a person. I want to evolve as a species. I want to help the world evolve in whatever way, and that's whether I'm being honest online with my music, interacting with fans in a really meaningful, special way. I'm still figuring out ways that I can do this, but that's sort of where that song derived from. I was sitting back and realizing that, like, there's a lot of bad here, and I want to do something where I can make an impact on this place in a great way. But then at some points, having that sort of passion to make an impact is sort of discouraging, because you don't really see it happening, and so you just kind of want to get away from here. And then when I brought that concept to Feldman, we sort of added the element of meeting somebody where you can share your interests with, and find a partner in somebody. And so that ultimately is what the song became about. It's being in a place where you're sort of really low and not really agreeing, can't find anybody to agree with. You don't particularly like the planet you're living on, and you just kind of want to bounce and get away and not do anything drastic. It's not about ending it all. It's just about trying to let me try another place on for size. And then you meet somebody who you realize, it's maybe they can make Earth a little bit easier to swallow. And so that's kind of where that element came from. And then I ended up, it's a funny story. This is the first song that I wrote with Phem, the artist Phem, who is now my partner. So that's it. I don't know if that was like, this was the song that laid out that foundation for us. We both kind of realized, like, life is better with a partner you can rely on and feel supported by. But it just turned out to be that we ended up together.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's also, most couples have a song, but your song is your song.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We realize that we don't really have a song per se, which is funny, but we write a lot of music with each other, so that can kind of be our song.
Just to have that ground zero, like, not many people have that, and so and I mean, writing, I've talked to my wife about this, writing musically especially is so intimate in if you let it be, in a way, regardless of who you're writing with. And then to bring in any kind of romantic part of it, like, this sort of, like, I'm imagining an atom is what I'm doing right here, and it just right.
It could be super unstable, but if you have all the right pieces and all the right support and love and willingness, and it's we're killing it. We really make it work, and I'm really, really excited to have this to have her as my partner. And I think she could say the same. I think.
I'm sure. I love hearing that. I do. I really do. And then I'll bring up Lemon as well, because that's, of course, that's a single that preceded this. I heard this song before I saw the new Teen Wolf movie, and I wasn't aware at that moment that it was in there. And I thought, man, this music is really powerful, and it's got this gothic feel to it that, I was really, it was speaking to everything that I love at that moment. Of course, you see Graveyard in there, and that helps with the gothic thing, but it wasn't until, like, moments or a day or whatever afterwards that I realized that you had sort of written this with that in mind for the movie.
Yeah.
I love it. Just throwing out the compliment right there. That's a powerful song.
Thank you. Hell yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, this one came about really cool. The Teen Wolf movie is something that I've been wanting to do for years, and finally we got the opportunity. And as soon as they came to me and asked, how do you feel about it? I was like, absolutely, let's do it. Put a song of mine in the movie and we're good. And that's what happened. And then I didn't know what capacity the song was going to be in the film. And they, the end credit song, I think, is one of the most important special songs of a movie. And they gave that to me. I didn't even ask for that part. And so I was like, all right, this song has to be epic. It's got to be cinematic. It's got to keep the ride going. You know, you just went on this pretty much 2.5 hour long ride. If you're a big fan of Teen Wolf, with characters that you've loved for years and you've been wanting to see for years back on the screen. So I was like, how do I, you know, just keep this feel, this marching kind of driving feel of this other. I wanted to encapsulate the entire 2 hours and 30 minutes in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you know, and keep that feel going and really kind of just capture this cinematic feel. And yeah, I feel like we did a really, really, really great job. I wrote it right here in this chair with Phem. She's just such a talented artist and singer and writer and has a great feel for tone and for music and where to piece it, where to put a certain genre or sound. And so we both kind of decided like it needs this rock and bass as this intro. And I came up with that bass line, and then everything else just sort of built itself around it. It just was easy. Like I hopped on the microphone and came out with that sort of monotone melody that I put like this bullhorn effect on, and it just felt right. And then had her vocals in the background, and then I had that scream, and everything just kept building after one another. I didn't really have an idea where it was going to go. The way that I write normally, I'll write the first part of the song, and then I'll hear that first part over and over until the next part just kind of spills out of it. Like I don't really, I don't have a game plan for each section of the song. Each section writes itself after the previous section. And so that's how this song came about. And I was just super happy with how it came out. I don't know. It just really felt super cinematic and fun and sort of nostalgic. And it doesn't really feel like anything that has been released by anyone in a long time. And it was a mix of a lot of different genres and sort of an 80s, 90s bass in the beginning, mixed with these really cool sort of Smith-like or The Cure guitars. And then having the scream element in there just felt like this Marilyn Manson rock gothic, kind of what you said. It's sort of all over the place. And then the chorus is this, I don't know, it's just got this beautiful punk, pop punk, post-hardcore feel to it. And yeah, I'm super happy with the entire thing. And that was a lot of fun to pull off. I'm really happy we got to do that.
Well, I'll say that the alt goth sound, if we want to call it that, fits you really well. And I'll selfishly just hope for more, a little bit more of that.
Yeah,
that's
thanks, man.
yeah.
I appreciate it. There are definitely a few on the album that fit that sort of vibe, and I'm really, really, really excited to showcase it.
Yeah. And then, you know, maybe you'll get more chances, who knows, with Teen Wolf. And I'm only quoting you. First, congratulations on the records that you broke, and then to see you say, let's keep the story going. Like,
yeah,
does the story keep, like, do you want to keep that story going?
Oh yeah, that's something I've wanted to do since day one. I've it's hard to walk away from this gig. I love this job. I love the writers. I love the people behind it. I love the storyline. I love my character. It's something that I really want to keep going. And I think what was cool is that it was nice to have this 5-year break so the fans could, you know, miss it. And then also, it's just interesting to see these characters older. It's this weird jump in time that we do that makes everything more exciting, and you eat it up a lot more as a fan. So yeah, I want more. I would love more Teen Wolf. You know, I think most everyone else does who's on the show, who watched it, a fan. You know, I think everybody kind of, we're all in the same boat. So it would be remarkable and incredible. And yeah, I think we would try to put more music in it. You know, maybe get 2 songs this time with the ending credits and the beginning credits.
Yeah, shows like that and movies now. We have a joke around here. I'll be watching them and I said, you think these characters just ever have just a boring day? Like, just sat around in my sweatpants watching TV, nothing happened at all.
That's what I want to see, you know, because you're right, these characters are kind of like risking their lives every time we see them, and I do want to see more of a mundane atmosphere that they could be in, you know, eating a bowl of cereal.
It'd be hilarious, by the way. It'd be like, you know, almost be like punking your audience and everything. You could just put out a standalone episode. Maybe it's in a season or 30 minutes, nothing happens.
It'd be great. It'd be like Seinfeld mixed with
Right.
Teen Wolf. I
You
would love.
swell the music like something's gonna happen, but no,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
tying my
yeah,
shoe. It's
yeah, exactly. A lot of fake outs. Yeah, it's smart.
not the only legacy, that you've been a part of, with the Scream series as well. And I mean, what's it? I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like, to be part of what's, I guess you'd call legacy projects now. Like, you dropped in on Scream. Of course you were there from the beginning with Teen Wolf, but these are, pardon the pun, I mean, these are very different animals, it would
Right.
seem, than things than than just a regular movie. I mean, does it change the way you approach it because when it's history like that?
I think there's an element of just more excitement, like because my character in Scream got to wear the Ghostface costume, and there's that I grew up with that. I even bought that costume for Halloween when I was like, I don't know, from age 7 to like 12, and I remember it had blood squirting out of it, and I would squeeze this heart, and the blood, the ghost face would bleed. So it was something when it's things like that, you get really giddy. It adds this sort of giddy. There's maybe a little bit of pressure there. I know other actors kind of will feel some pressure with big shoes to fill. I don't really put that sort of pressure on me. There's always a little bit because it's they are big shoes to fill, but I like what I do. I feel like I'm a fan of the work that I do, and so I'm never too scared to kind of fill those shoes. I'm excited to kind of show people my take on it. But it is just, for me, it's just really exciting. Teen Wolf itself was a legacy before the show even started with Michael J. Fox. So that was another thing that was, exciting. But in the end, acting is art, and it's your take on something that inspired what you're doing now. And so it's, I think that the pressure never really was there for me because we are, doing a sort of our own version of it. And you hope that the fans like it. There's always that worry. When Teen Wolf first came out, we had all the diehard Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf fans hating on Teen Wolf. Because they're like, how could you recreate this gold, this masterpiece? And it is a great movie. So it was a little scary, but people came around pretty quickly and realized we were doing our own thing. And yeah, it's so fun being a part of those legacies. I want that. I want to keep it going. It's fun. It's I don't know how else to put it, man. It's kind of like you're going to go see your favorite band play, and they pull you up on stage to play a guitar riff that you've been practicing for years. So it's similar in that vein. It's kind of like an honor, definitely, to do that. I was also in Scary Movie 5, and scary movies were my favorite movies growing up, and so it was that was also another thing I was really excited about. It's cool. It's really cool.
We always look back to Michael J. Fox, and poor Jason Bateman always gets looked over in that second
I
one.
know.
So.
I have this really funny story actually that I've been like waiting to tell. I want to tell it on Jason's podcast, Heartless, but I don't know if I'll ever get a gig on there. I don't think I'm at that level. But I met Jason Bateman at Teen Choice Awards. I was 19 years old, so it was probably 2010, something like that, 2011. And I met him, and I was like, "Hey, dude, you're Teen Wolf. I'm Teen Wolf. I'm the new Teen Wolf." And he was like, "Get out of here, man. That's so cool." And we shot the shit a little bit about the makeup process and all of that. And then we went our separate ways. And he was like, "Okay, I gotta go. It's nice to meet you, man." And it was really sweet conversation. He was a great guy. And then I get sat at my seat, which is kind of near the stage. And the reason he was there, he was maybe for Horrible Bosses, I can't remember, but he was there as a presenter. And he gets on stage, and I'm pretty damn close to him, and I'm looking up at him, and I'm like all giddy about our interaction that just happened. And I go, "Teen Wolf 2!" I yelled it out, like when the audience was just silent, you could hear a pin drop. And he gave me this look like he wanted to rip my throat out with his Teen Wolf teeth. And it was like the best moment of my life. Horrible, because I was genuinely excited, and I felt like he did not like that, because obviously that wasn't the best movie for him. But I thought it was an incredible moment. You know, I was such an idiot kid, stupid kid, you know.
Oh, but I'm so glad you did that.
I
Like,
know, me too.
yeah, that's
It
you.
was great.
You'd regretted it otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect. I'm very happy that it happened.
Somebody out there thinks Teen Wolf 2 is a masterpiece. Somebody
Yeah,
that's their favorite movie.
I think so.
Yeah. Like, I don't know who that person is, but they exist somewhere.
Yeah, I
So,
want to meet them.
well, bringing it back, Unravel. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to the whole album tour as well. Going to spend a bit of this
definitely at
year.
some point. Yeah, I don't know about the end of this year, so it's tricky sort of managing acting career with music career, because music career, when you book a tour, you book it in months and months and months in advance. Acting happens a little bit quicker. So say I book a tour and then there comes this acting gig that I really want that would get in the way of the tour. You just have to be really strategic about it. So for now, I'm going to release the album, let the album speak for itself, get a lot of attention from that, and let that garner some love. um, Focus on acting for sort of maybe the rest of this year. But as soon as, you know, I'm ready, we're gonna do a huge tour, and whether that's in Europe, whether that's here in the States, I'm no stranger to both. So yeah, that's definitely happening, and I have countless fans asking for tour and when I'm going to tour, and so there's, you know, I feel like it'll be a great turnout when it does happen. So yeah, definitely, eventually, soonish.
Easy enough. Fair enough. Man, Tyler, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. Congrats on everything you got going on. Again, with the record breaking on Teen Wolf the movie, and of course, we'll all be looking forward to Unravel.
Yeah, Kyle, thank you so much, dude. I really had a great time. I really appreciate it, man.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.